Victoria Coates. She is the vice president of the Heritage Foundation's National Security and Foreign Policy Institute. Thanks, Victoria, for being here. Is it on, as the NATO leader has suggested, is it on Zelensky's shoulders to try to fix this situation?
Well, good to be with you, and thank you for having me on. Yes, I think it quite frankly is. You know, the Secretary General, Mark Rutte, is not a natural ally necessarily of President Trump, but he recognizes the simple reality that the United States is the nuclear umbrella over Europe. We are the ones who provide that security, and without it, there's not much Europe's going to be able to do against the world's largest nuclear power, which is Russia. So that is the reality that I think President Zelensky forgot yesterday, that this is a bigger situation than just Ukraine, and that President Trump is an indispensable and necessary partner to Europe. And just really quickly, I would point out he had two excellent engagements with European heads of state last week. This was in no way inevitable, nor is it President Trump's fault.
You heard President Trump telling him that he doesn't hold any cards, and perhaps that is true, but the Ukrainians have done an amazing job of fighting off this assault, this invasion from a much bigger adversary over the last 3 years. Have they not?
Oh, they have. And I think President Trump was very careful to say several times this week, including yesterday during this exchange, that no one can doubt the bravery of the Ukrainian people and that he admires it greatly. And I think that is also a fact. And in this case, though, he has said repeatedly that he doesn't think we should be fighting this war down to the last Ukrainian, which is how the Biden administration prosecuted it over the last 3 years, giving Ukraine just enough not to lose, but not enough to win. And I think President Trump thinks that approach has failed. I would say that none of the Americans that reelected President Trump in November voted for an expanded, greater American involvement in the war in Ukraine, and he is making good on what he campaigned on, which President Zelensky should have known, which is ending the war and ending the killing.
Yeah, he wants to end the war. President Trump does. Obviously, President Zelensky does too. But is it a case of peace at any price? I mean, what if the Donbass and Crimea permanently go to the Russians? Is that, in your view, is that a worthwhile peace deal?
No, absolutely not. And I don't think that's what President Trump has proposed at all. I think we should go back to this minerals, natural resources deal that was on the table yesterday. That is what should have been signed, because what that does is it gives the United States vested interests in Ukraine. It's why the Ukrainians wanted that deal 6-7 years ago, because they wanted the United States to have assets in the country, which will give Putin pause. And that's what we need to do. We need to deter him from doing this again. So direct American engagement, economic in this case, is one way to do it. Another way, which Mark Rutte also knows quite well, is expanded European investment in their own defenses. They did not start doing that 3 years ago when the war began. They're just talking about doing it now in this kind of enthusiasm for Zelensky that has broken out since the events of yesterday. You know, and that wouldn't even be up and running for a couple more years. If they were serious about their security, they would have done this 3 years ago, if not sooner. And they would, at that point, have something very serious to deter Putin with.
President Trump is taking some heat from other world leaders, including, in this case, the European Union foreign policy chief, Kaja Kallas, who says the free world needs a new leader. Ukraine is Europe. We stand by Ukraine. We will step up our support to Ukraine so that they can continue to fight back the aggressor. Today it became clear that the free world needs a new leader. It's up to us Europeans to take this challenge. Do you dispute any of that?
Yeah, yes, I do. And Kaja Kallas is a friend of mine. She's the former president of Estonia. I think those were very poorly chosen comments, probably said in the heat of the moment, because this is just unrealistic. And President Trump is this best friend to Europe. We are very close partners, and we want to continue to be. But my question to President Kallas would be, if you have such enthusiasm for Ukraine, and Ukraine is Europe, well, why aren't they in the European Union? which you are now the top diplomat, why aren't you advocating to give them the protection of the euro currency and the European market and all that that entails? Why wouldn't you do that? That seems to me a much more logical thing. It's purely economic that you would do rather than NATO membership, which could enlarge the war. And so I would be very interested in her answer to that question.
Interesting take. Victoria Coates from the Heritage Center. Thank you.
Thank you.